Welcome back to the Lily White Lab YouTube channel. I'm joined by a Manchester United fan this time. Obviously, Spurs play United at home. The early kickoff on Saturday. A massive game for Spurs, and I'd say probably a big game for United as well. They need to kind of keep up pretty positive momentum they've had recently. Um, Jackson, how are you doing, first of all?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Bit nervous about this game. I'm going actually. We're filming this on Wednesday night, so if anything does happen from now until then just remember we haven't seen that. Referring to team news and stuff like that. But yeah, first of all, I just want to get your thoughts on kind of United in general at the moment. What your feelings overall with the kind of Amorim setup, overriding thoughts, and then we'll kind of get into potentially how you're going to set up in this game. I've just kind of filled out the team roughly what we think might happen, but I'll leave it with you. So yeah, what are your overall thoughts at the moment with Amarim?
I think I think overall we're just lucky that the league itself is quite poor in quality. I think obviously you got Arsenal flying, but then there's so many clubs in the same kind of area where nobody's really performing inconsistent with form. I think City will end up pushing on, but yeah, I think us especially both in a similar situation where we're not playing the kind of football we want to be playing. We're getting points every now and then, but also dropping them in stupid places as well. I think everyone's going to the same way of playing this direct vertical football, no control, no calmness. And again, I saw there's a lot of teams, including us, that are better without the ball than with it. I say we're unbeaten in four. Carried momentum quite well between those games. Um, Especially when we scored first. I say unbeaten when we scored first as well. But yeah, going into Spurs, I'm not all that confident.
Right, so yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with all that in terms of the theme of the league at the moment. Let's kind of talk about. I'm going to kind of go in position by position, ish, kind of different areas of the pitch. But I first just kind of want to get your overall kind of strategy both in and out of possession. So, in terms of build up, um, are we still seeing kind of this type of thing where this centre back steps into midfield and that how are you building up basically?
So you're seeing it's less of an issue, I think. Like last season, it was a lot more. Oh, why is Maguire receiving with his back to goal? Why is Delict?
Yeah.
But now we just basically skipped that stage. So you're going
Okay.
straight from Lomans up to Sesko up to Mbuemo in the front three, and you are just you're not seeing that part of where we were struggling last season because you just go
We're
over it
going
straight
direct.
over. Yeah, and then
So
that gets us.
you're not even bothering now to kind of try and build.
No, not really. I think we're second for like long balls played this season.
Okay, fair.
And under Lomans is even more than under with Onana or Bayern there. So yeah,
And are you then obviously trying to eat up second balls, obviously from this area, and then kind of playing in their half?
yeah, definitely. I think it's not even necessarily on Sheshko to necessarily win the first contact. You're purely relying on the second balls. So especially when we don't start Sheshko, which I'm not too sure about against you, we could easily put Mount in there as well, and you just purely do go for those second balls. But yeah, either way, it's direct, it's long, and you are
And I
going to
guess
be the
I
second
guess
ball.
for the profiles you have, I mean, I'm looking at kind of these three. Pretty good in second balls, I'd say. Very energetic players, very combative. Yeah, I guess that is kind of getting the best out of some of their qualities, I'd say. Maybe less so Cunha, but yeah, I think that kind of makes sense how you've had some success doing that with those three.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Again, I say Mount to come into that as well. Ahmad, which we has haven't really seen him play that high this season, but if he comes in, he can do the similar job. You're not looking at muscle, you're not looking at all that physicality, but you're looking at players who can cover short distances quickly, which obviously you don't really get with Casemiro, but he's taking his man down if he can't tackle. So you've always got that bit of defensive solidity there as well.
Okay, perfect. So let's first touch on this back three. Because obviously, like you've said, there's been less kind of reliance on their ball playing abilities now, I guess. It's more about how they defend. Um, let's just also put in Yoro here, who's played. You've also had Mazraoui play right centre back at times.
Yeah.
Um, what first of all, what do you think he would go for in this game in terms of the back three, and then what would you go for?
I'm quite torn. I'm not really a fan of seeing Ahmad and Yoro on the same side. Say especially if you're delivering crosses to the back post, and I'm seeing Jed Spence come in on those two. I'm not very confident. Or even if Johnson gets any minutes, I think you need somebody who is comfortable again stepping up and either taking his man or dealing with it, which I back Delict or Mazraoui in those situations more. But Mazraoui came on the other day for Yoro quite late on with about 10-15 to go, and it wasn't a good showing. So I'm not too sure. But I think if Maguire's fit, I think he comes back in and we have a more sturdy and physical back three. But yeah, again, it could easily be Mazraoui.
Cool. So you kind of expect it to be something like this in terms of the back three.
Yep.
Perfect. And then okay, so from there, kind of what are these three's strengths and weaknesses?
Again, you go Maguire. If you've got a centre forward to work with, he's good at anything physical. And then I think De Ligt and Shaw, you're looking at seeing how well they can step up, being aggressive. I say especially seeing Simmons and Kudus. That's tough. It's a tough task, which I think that's Yara's nightmare coming up against that kind of player. So again, not having him is probably a wise choice. And I don't think you can go anywhere else other than Shaw. He has done really well. He stepped up well, but you time these steps up slightly wrong, and they're in behind. You've then got Diallo or an Ahmad tracking back into positions which they can't, and you've got obviously a central centre back which isn't exactly the best at covering large distances at covering. If you've got a Varane in there, or even I'd happily have Yoro, you're not too worried. But Maguire covering for those spaces is really not ideal. I said on the ball, you're not too worried because again you're just pumping it long.
Yeah.
Shaw is nice. Shaw's done quite well. I think Heaven as well when he came in. Ideally, it's when Martinez is back and he's thriving. He's the best at it. But I think that's probably the most sensible back three.
Okay, perfect. Right, and then let's quickly move on to we'll obviously touch on how that kind of lack of maybe pace and behind with Maguire affects this game. Um, I think that the midfield too, they're sort of nailed on, right? And we kind of know what we get from them. I think Fernandez in this area obviously is going to always want to play direct, wants to make things happen. We know what Fernandez has in terms of quality, but we also know that he's going to turn over the ball quite a lot. I'd probably say the same for Casemiro if you agree with that
Yeah,
in
definitely.
terms of turnovers. Um, so we'll probably see a lot of high risk football in our half, where at times that's going to release some really talented forwards. At times we're probably going to intercept those, but we can be under real threat. With that, let's talk about the wing backs though quickly. So you've got um, Dallo, Dorgu, Ahmad, and then potentially Mazraoui, but I know he sees him more as a right centre back. Um, yeah, what are the qualities of these guys, and what would you go with in this game?
I think from the last game we were really struggling with any sort of width. I think, well, to be fair, we get Dallo and Dorgu in pretty similar positions, high up on the left, but they're just not who you want in those situations. But I think purely from the point of Dallo was obviously getting the ball so much on his left foot, just not ideal. Ideally, you do have a left footer in that position, which is why I think it's going to be Dorgu. Amro mentioned it himself that he was struggling with his left foot. Um, I say Ahmad for build up purposes, it makes sense. You've got that ability to then play wide and then play inside, which especially when you've got one less man in midfield, it gives you that better flow to work from out to in and then back out again, uh,
Yeah,
rather than rather than going straight down the line. Mazraoui again, he could come in and do a job on the right. I say same for Diallo, but given their performances recently, I'm not too confident in them either. So I think Dorgu and Ahmad is probably the safest choice.
And I've seen you kind of speak about the partnership between these two, and kind of some of the issues with that, in terms of, I guess, that they kind of want to operate in similar areas when they do get into the final third. And I guess it doesn't optimize them when they're both kind of wanting to get into this sort of area, both being left footers, both being good dribblers, um, good acceleration to kind of get away from people. And I guess with a player like Mbuemo, you probably want someone going around the outside to, one, be an option to pass to, but also to create that space for Mbuemo to cut inside and shoot, because we know how lethal he can be in front of goal. But also for Diallo, I think you want probably a more natural right winger if you're gonna have a wing back who wants to kind of invert in the final third and operate in this area. You probably want a player who's happy to make those in to out runs. Not all the time, obviously, but in certain moments. How have you seen that kind of partnership develop?
I think at the start it had its obvious teething problems. There was multiple situations, to be fair, where Mbuemo's cutting inside and then Ahmad's trying to do the same thing, or you'll have Ahmad cutting inside and Mbuemo just looked lost. I feel like a lot of the time where he wants to peel wide, but he can't because that's Ahmad's area. He's out wide. But then there was a situation the other week against Sunderland, I think it was, where Mbuemo comes inside to get a shot off. Ahmad goes to make the same run and then checks his run around the outside, which I suppose is positive in that they're both acknowledging that this is not my time to do it. But then Ahmad making that one run around the right hand side is the value in that is not that high. If you've got Dallo, even though he's not a great crosser, I still back Dallo in that situation better than I do Ahmad on his right foot. Um,
Just because of the footedness, right?
just natural. So it even takes less pressure off the player who's shooting, whether it be on the inside with Mbuemo or Ahmad. That if there is another option, defenders are wary of that. Whereas if Ahmad's making that run around the outside, it's not scary. If it's Saka who's known for that cut inside, get it onto his right foot, and he hits it into the roof of the net, it's different. But neither Mbuemo or Ahmad are necessarily all that known for that movement. So yeah, I just really don't think it optimizes either. To be fair.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all very interesting. And then, yeah, I guess, what have you made? I mean, we know the quality of these two. I think a lot of people know the qualities they bring. What have you made of Sheshko so far?
I think good in spells. I think he just needs to be brought off sooner. I think it's clear when he's not got involvement in games, and I think when it gets to that point, the 55-minute stage, even get on somebody else, whether it be Xerxes, to bring other players into play a little bit better, or you chuck up front Mount, who you'll run all game, you'll press. It doesn't give you that target to hit, but at least it gives you something. But yeah, I think it's about breaking him in slowly. I don't think we're necessarily creating the chances that he wants. He did have his opportunities against Forest, but again, he's still only young. But yeah, I think even for the game on the weekend, I think I'd still start Sheshko, but if it's not working, then just have the balls to take him off.
And in terms of his qualities, what should kind of Spurs be afraid of with him?
I think it is that he might miss three or four headers, duels with Romero or Van der Ven, but then the one that he does make, it could be a flick on to Mbuemo, which we saw against Chelsea, which led to the red card. So I think that's just that constant danger of he will eventually win that flick on, and if he does, you're in trouble because Mbuemo, you're
Because
not catching him, and he's dangerous.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's that kind of link between those two, which is the threat, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and even obviously as a box threat, I think his movement is quite there yet, but you can put it in an area and he will attack it.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to quickly touch on Tottenham, and then we'll see how kind of those two lineups match up. So obviously we all know that Spurs had a brilliant performance against Copenhagen midweek. Um, kind of set up something like this in this sort of 3-2-4-1 ish shape, but it was much more flexible. So we saw Audebert out on this left sometimes with Udogie making these kind of inverted runs. We saw Audebert being more narrow often as well, with Udogie being overlapping. We also obviously saw Porro at times make the final third, but in build up was being much more deeper. And Simmons had a lot more freedom as well, and was really enjoying that, it seemed like. In terms of what I think Spurs should do, is keep it unchanged, barring Kudus for Johnson. I don't know if Kudus is necessarily fit. I think he had a knock midweek, but that might have been one where they're looking to rest him. He's played a lot of football. But this is the lineup that I would go with, although I think he's more likely to revert to that, with Paulinho back in and Bentancur, but hopefully still seeing this same shape. I think obviously I've touched on it as well. This kind of quartet, I guess you want to call it, has been really impressive. I think so much kind of rotations and freedom and fluidity, and just good technical players linking up has been really good to see. And I think that dynamic is creating something really nice. And we know how good the dynamic has been between Porro and Kudus. A very specific pass with Porro kind of constantly spamming up the line, and we know Kudus with acres of space is lethal. You kind of can leave Kudus all on his own because of how strong, quick, technically refined and secure he is. He doesn't necessarily need players in close proximity to him to kind of optimize his game. Whereas I think someone like Simmons or other kind of major signing in the summer, you want players around him. So I think this dynamic works nicely. This gets the best out of Simmons, and then you allow Kudus to kind of just do his own thing, and can be really lethal even though he's kind of on his own out there. So I guess this is how I see Spurs lining up. I think Muani's coming on really well as well. But yeah, if I put both lineups next to each other, what kind of matchups do you see, or kind of anything that jumps out of you in this specific game, with the personnel, with the kind of way that we're set up, that you kind of expect to be a key theme?
I think straight away is you're looking at whoever you play at left back and Ahmad. That worries me a little bit. I think especially when Ahmad is not a natural defender. I say especially at the back post, or he was getting isolated a lot. We're meant to be defending in somewhat of a 4-4-2, but if that left back gets forward, then Ahmad goes with him, which is understandable. And he'll put in a great shift, but I think as well, especially when he does get beat, he overcommits. So if he does get beat, he's flying straight in. So if that player chops again, he's free. I'm scared between the lines. I think we got beat against Forest. I don't think they were smart enough to do it, but if you get Simmons especially and Kudus in between the lines, I think that's where we could struggle. I say obviously Porro even there would bomb forward, which I think is that pattern of playing into Kudus, who would drag Shaw up, and then Porro goes in behind Dorgu, and then his cutbacks. Which with a back three, I just feel like there's so many times where our centre backs just look lost. They don't know who they're defending.
I think that's a great point. So you see often with potential back threes where something like this happens, and the back three are very deep defending their box, and it's fine when you kind of. It's not. I guess it's not just cutbacks. It's clearances from there, and then the second balls on the edge of the box, because you end up with this kind of space in between, and players arriving ahead of the pivots onto things, because the back three are kind of all a bit deep. But also, yeah, you're right in terms of Porro. I think it's probably more likely to be Udogie doing this, to be honest. But cutbacks in this sense, where the back three are kind of protecting the goal, but they've left spaces ahead of them for the kind of pocket players or the striker to pull off and score from. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Some of the kind of things I'm thinking.
I think even Dorgu going forward could be a good one for Porro. I think Dorgu's already guaranteed to win fouls. So I think as much as he gets in the positions, I think the thought of Dorgu is more scarier than what he actually is, which is why he wins so many fouls because he's brought down in a similar area to what you've got him as there. Whereas if you do get him further up near the edge of the box, he probably messes up anyway.
Yeah.
Which I do think Porro's taken that bait.
Well, oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. And Porro, I think people kind of complain about some of his defensive abilities, but he's certainly puts a shift in and wants to be aggressive where he can. Um, yeah, I think that's definitely a factor, especially with kind of potentially turnovers. If Kudus kind of loses the ball there, then there's this big gap, and you've got Dorgu probably traveling with the ball over large distances, and then Porro has to step out at that point and potentially commit a foul. I think one thing I'd be very interested in is if you do press Porro. I think this could be a really key factor if Cunha does come out and press Porro. What does that do in terms of this situation? Because Porro's got a very good ability to pass through the lines. Let's just put Kudus back for a second. And if Cunha jumps, then you probably look at Fernandez stepping onto Bentancur. But then you've got Simmons in this pocket with kind of Casemiro trying to cover these two because Odebear's coming narrow. Simmons is playing in the 10. And then if we can kind of swing it, I don't know how kind of what way it would be. It might be Bentancur creating this angle there and then Simmons dropping in there and Casemiro jumping. And that means De Ligt would have to jump and then there's spaces here. So I think that is a big factor about kind of whether or not Cunha looks to press up on Porro or kind of let him have the ball. We also know that Porro has the quality, if he is given time, to play that clip pass to Kudus. So I think that's going to be a key factor whether or not Porro is pressed. In terms of Spurs' kind of deficiencies against this United team, I think it is going to be about if we do lose the ball. I kind of expect us to have more possession than we've had most of the season. But this front three is obviously very deadly, and at times I think the setup's going to look something like this. And because you're going so long, you're not trying to build anyway. So if we leave kind of this situation back here and Sesko can win a flick on, then you're looking at a 3v3 at times. Obviously, Paulinho and Bentancur will help clean up, but there's potential for turnovers just because of how direct you're going to be. What are your thoughts on that?
I think if you go with that team, I'm not too worried. But what I would be was if Sarr comes in for maybe Odebear and Simmons goes over to the left because I think our kind of front five, if you're going looking at our midfield and front three against mainly Bentancur and Paulinho, I think that's a good battle. I think we probably win it. But I think if you add Sarr into that as well, alongside Van der Ven and Romero probably beating Sheshko aerially, I think you beat us in that regard. Which I think if you're winning the second balls and that's our game, I think
Yeah.
we'll really struggle. So I think it would be that a case of then giving you the ball and trying to play wide instead of the long balls, which again, having Ahmad there helps you a lot in that, and probably Dorgu even just stretching the pitch. But I think if you play Sarr, I think that'd be really tough for us to even win
That's
second balls.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. Because United's game obviously at the moment in possession is a lot about second balls, and Sarr is probably our best player at hoovering up second balls. That's kind of his game, and I think that is potentially could happen. To be fair, I think Sarr was very good midweek. He played a much deeper role, but I also think that in this position he could thrive again. We've seen him out of possession how good he is. I think it depends on whether Frank wants to go with that continued kind of form off of midweek game, or if he wants to kind of be reactive again, I guess, and react to the opposition and try and beat them at their game rather than implementing his own style. I love Sarr in these situations. I just think we get more in possession from something like this and being at home and stuff like that. I think that is potentially what I would go with, but I also would get the thinking behind that. The other option is that you play Sarr in the pivot. You don't bring Paulinho back in. Paulinho's great ball winner, but Sarr is the better second ball winner, I guess. Especially when like things drop down and they're loose in midfield. He's so good at kind of getting to them first. But yeah, I think that's a good way to round it off. Looking forward to the game. What are your
I think
Yeah, so what are your predictions for the game? How do you think it's going to play out?
I think it's going to be poor quality. And I do think whoever's going to have the least of the ball is going to win. We've not beaten you in 7 games. You've won the last 4. Um, even Brentford under Thomas Frank scared me. But I'm going to go 1-1, nasty game.
Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic. I think if Frank fails to win another game at home, it's going to get very toxic. I think he needs to win this. I know we won midweek, but the opposition was really poor. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win. I'm hoping that he uses the similar kind of setup he's been using, well, used midweek, because that was very impressive. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I will get a match reaction out, I hope, if I get time on the Sunday. So yeah, please do look out for that, and obviously subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you want to see in the comments, and also I'll leave Jackson's Twitter. He's very, very good person to follow on there. Lots of kind of United insight, but also just general football insight. So please do go follow him as well. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on, Jackson, and come
Thank
on,
you.
you Spurs.